Shifting focus, Chandrayaan 3 took off from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota on Friday. It was indeed a Bahubali moment for India, a moment that all Indians have waited for nearly 4 years now. This is the follow-up of Chandrayaan 2 mission, which failed a desired soft landing on the lunar surface in September 2019. It was a heartbreaking moment for a billion people. But ISRO didn't give up and has once again embarked on a moon mission. And with Chandrayaan 3 liftoff, a billion hopes too took off. India's third mission to the moon aims to achieve what its predecessor couldn't, to demonstrate ISRO's ability to complete a soft landing on the lunar surface. As of now, the satellite is pretty well injected into the desired orbit, and the ISRO scientists from Bengaluru will now be firing the onboard thrusters attached to Chandrayaan 3 starting today, taking the spacecraft further away from Earth on a crucial 41-day phase to make a soft landing at the south pole of the moon. Now, let me tell you that the 3,900 kg spacecraft consists of a lander, Vikram, a rover, Pragyan, and a rocket, Bahubali. A trivia here, the rover on the lunar surface will be doing more than just gathering data. The rear wheels of the rover named Pragyan will leave imprints of the ISRO and the national emblem, therefore symbolizing its presence and leaving India's mark behind. Now, the landing is scheduled on August 23rd, 24th. If all goes well, Chandrayaan 3 will make a landing on Moon's south pole where no spacecraft has ever gone before. If the mission is successful, India will join an elite list of 3 other countries that have managed a soft landing on the moon: the United States, the former Soviet Union, and China. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi had hailed the launch and congratulated the scientists for their dedication, saying that Chandrayaan 3 has scripted a new chapter in India's space odyssey.
With chants of Jai Hind, Chandrayaan 3 lifts off, and so do the hopes and prayers of 1.4 billion Indians.
We have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3M4 rocket.
This is how India's scripted history with its third lunar exploration mission, Chandrayaan 3.
यह भीमकाय रॉकेट आसमान को चीरते हुए अपनी भयानक दहाड़ से चारों ओर कंपन उत्पन्न कर रहा है.
The historic launch unfolded in the presence of more than 10,000 Indians present at Andhra Pradesh's Sriharikota. ISRO Chief S. Somanath, the officials of the Space Agency and MOS Science and Technology, Jitendra Singh closely monitored each and every detail as the craft leaped into space. The journey of over 40 days has begun, with the spaceship expected to touch down Moon's South Pole region on August 23, with a mission to develop and demonstrate new technologies required for interplanetary missions. If successful, India will join the coveted club of only 3 nations, that is US, Russia and China, which have achieved the feat so far.
Orbit the moon and to take a repeated look at its surface.
First, we have to fire the engine. So the engine on the orbit propulsion module should work very well. The control system should work very well, and we should be able to raise the orbit slowly. Yeah. So unless we are able to raise it in our next one or two orbit, the mission is out. Power generation we are checking. So many things are going to happen. Then slowly raise it by 1st August. We will go to moon, and that travel will take about 4 or 5 days. Then we'll reach moon and capture on the moon. Then remaining activities will take place.
This heralds the beginning of India's wider global role in the world arena and the emerging world scenario of the 21st century. And I'm glad, I must thank Prime Minister Modi has been very supportive about it. Yes. Chandrayaan 2 was not a failure in the strict sense because we did land. Only thing, the things did not go as we had envisaged. Taking care of all these things which might have been overlooked in Chandrayaan 2, plus also adding some of the supplements which would have taken otherwise quite some time to be added on.
This is India's second attempt at soft landing robotic instruments on the lunar surface after a similar attempt failed in 2019. However, with resolve, resilience and perseverance, India bounced back and added a new chapter to the nation's space history.
Of LTM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan 3 space.
Chandrayaan 3 mission consists of the main objectives of exhibiting end-to-end capability in safe landing and roving on the lunar surface.
अभी तक जितनी जो लैंडिंग हुई है वो हम देखते हैं कि जो चंद्रमा का बीच वाला या भूमध्य भाग जो है ये इस इलाके में लैंडिंग हुई है। अभी हम पहली बार जो है वो दक्षिण गोलार्ध में दक्षिण भाग में हम लैंडिंग करने जा रहे हैं। तो उसमें ये है कि जैसे आप ऊपर वाला भाग देखेंगे तो वहां पे तो हम देखते हैं कि तकरीबन 14 दिन का सूर्य प्रकाश रहता है, उसके बाद में 14 दिन अंधेरा रहता है। तो दक्षिण भाग में जो है वो जहां कई ऐसी जगह हैं कि जहां पे सूर्य प्रकाश नहीं है और वहां पे वैज्ञानिकों ने देखा है, चंद्रयान 1 के समय भी हम जान गए थे कि वहां पे पानी है, बर्फ के रूप में पानी वहाँ पे है। तो वो पानी वहाँ पे जा करके हम देखेंगे कि उसकी सतह कैसी है, उसकी मिट्टी कैसी है, मिट्टी का परीक्षण किया जाएगा। साथ में ही जो चंद्रमा पे जो क्वेक आते हैं, पृथ्वी पर जैसे भूकंप आते हैं तो चंद्रमा पे भी कंपन आते हैं, तो उनको भी मेजर किया जाएगा। तो ऐसे कई उपकरण हैं, कई खोज हैं जो चंद्रमा की धरती पे होंगे।
The spacecraft consists of a 6-wheel lander and rover module configured with payloads to provide data related to the moon's surface. The rear wheels of the rover, named Chandrayan, will leave imprints of the ISRO and the national emblem on the lunar surface, symbolizing its presence and leaving India's mark behind. Prime Minister Modi took to Twitter and hailed the new chapter in India's space odyssey and appreciated the relentless dedication of Indian scientists.
और आपको खुशी होगी, अभी जब मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूं तो भारत में चंद्रयान 3 की चंद्रयान 3 की लॉन्चिंग के लिए रिवर्स काउंटिंग की गूंज सुनाई दे रही है। कुछ ही घंटों बाद भारत के श्रीहरिकोटा से ये ऐतिहासिक लॉन्च होने जा रहा है।
Even NASA and European Space Agency have lauded Chandrayaan 3 historic mission to the far side of the moon. Chandrayaan 3 is on its onward journey towards the moon and would be the first to land at the lunar South Pole, an area of special interest for space agencies due to the presence of water ice that could support a future space station.
All right, I have with me on the broadcast Suresh Nayak, who's former Group Director, ISRO. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Mirror Now and sparing your time. So, what does the Chandrayaan mission mean for ISRO, India and the whole world?
Chandrayaan 3 mission is very significant in many ways. One thing is the technology of soft landing on moon, the robotic landing, is extremely complicated and actually important. If we achieve that, and I'm sure we will achieve this time, then we will be able to think of sending a human being on the moon. And I would like to share with you good news that the rocket LVM-3, Launch Vehicle Mark III, which was used for Chandrayaan 3 yesterday, is human rated already. That means its reliability has been increased sufficiently high so that it can be now called human rated. It is in the human rated category. So it is already proven that it can take human beings. So another thing is once we are able to send a man or a woman, human being on the moon, then they further doors will open for establishing a human colony. And on the other side, here we are really having a very good network on the ground in India with space industries. More than 480 industries, private industries in India have supplied various components and subsystems to this mission. And apart from that, the experiments which are going on board the Chandrayaan 3 lander, propulsion unit, and the rover also have come not only from SAC Ahmedabad, but from various institutions in the country who are doing research. So this has provided an impetus to the other institutions also in the country to do the scientific research. And this particular collaboration is extremely important in the future. On the other side, if you see, there are 140 startups have come up in the only space sector after Prime Minister's initiative of commercializing and opening the space to the private sector. And thirdly, the young generation will be extremely further enthused and inspired by the success of Chandrayaan 3. And this I have personally observed in my interactions with several students in the last about 12 years. After Chandrayaan 1, this process was started where the young generation gets really thrilled and excited, inspired to take up the careers in the space. It could be in the private industry or in ISRO. So these are very important, impactful results of the successful Chandrayaan 3 mission.
Absolutely. We also have Dr. Surinder Pal, who's the former Senior Advisor Satellite Navigation ISRO. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Mirror Now. Let me go back to Suresh Nayak, sir. Sir, you did speak about soft landing. If you could also help us understand what particularly are the challenges in making that soft landing?
So you are asking the question to Dr. Surendra Pal?
I'm addressing it to you, sir.
Okay. You see, the challenges in soft landing as we experienced in Chandrayaan 2 are as follows. One is actually we could now say that we have mastered the technology of the launch. That is the first phase, successful launch. Second phase is inserting the satellite into the moon's orbit. That is also now we can say we are pretty much very confident. And third thing is we can take the lander into the landing orbit, which is 100 by 30 kilometers. Now, what really the challenges we faced and we are going to face this time also is from 30 kilometer to the 0 kilometer on the moon. This journey is full of challenges. That's called 15 minutes of terror. And number one challenge is actually, when the lander approaches moon surface, though there is no atmosphere on the moon like on Earth, there is a very thin atmosphere or gases and this thing near the moon surface. Because of that, and also due to the gravitation effects of other celestial bodies, there could be dispersion in the lander's path. Okay, and now this dispersion has to be taken care by the navigation and control system on board the lander. And this particular thing is extremely challenging. Second thing is the velocity, thruster system. These thrusters have to be controlled very perfectly so that they fire at the right thrust, at the right velocity, at the right altitude, so that when it approaches, let's say 100 meters or so, then it has to be reduced. When it started, its speed was 600 kilometers per hour, and now it has to be 8 kilometers per hour. And that has to happen gradually. And of course, during the soft landing and the last movement, it has to be, the legs have to be strong enough to withstand the shock.
Right.
And apart from this, there are actually other challenges like the systems like navigation and control, thruster, these had to be perfectly coordinated so that there is no human interference till this phase. Everything has to be done by the software algorithms on the lander, and the algorithm has to take care of various scenarios of failures and incorporate suggestions. And that exactly has been done this time by ISRO. It is not a success-based planning, but it is failure-based planning. They have imagined various scenarios of failures, and they have incorporated the corrective actions in the navigation software system.
Absolutely.
So those are the really challenges. Even after landing, see, even during landing, last minute, there is a lot of lunar dust on the surface, and that dust can spread and affect the cameras on the lander, and that will confuse the lander. So that also we have taken care by reducing one engine from 5 to 4, from Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3. So we have more or less taken every possible failure situation into account and incorporated and modified the software.
Absolutely. I'll also like to bring in Dr. Pal. Dr. Pal, as we were talking about the corrective measures and the changes, if you could also please enlist for our viewers, what are the big changes that were made in Chandrayaan 3?
See, what Dr. Nayak told, I'll just complement that one and supplement. There are, three more cameras have been added. There is a laser velocity Doppler instrument is there. Then 250 kilograms of extra fuel has been added to the lander. And all these things, plus a lot of accelerometer, de-accelerometers have been done. The software has taken care of it is a triple redundancy. It takes care of any failure. Also, suppose they find that the site is not proper for landing, then it can go, that area has been increased for which landing can take place. It can find out suitable place. And finally, the velocity will be almost less than 2 meters per second. So the landing will be almost like a helicopter landing. That sort of a G shock we will get it. So it should be very smooth. This time I'm quite sure it will be there. Now, before that, there are a couple of things which Dr. Nayak missed. There are another critical thing will be there when we enter into the lunar orbit. First is lunar transfer orbit. Then when lunar orbit, when we enter, there can be three possibilities. That becomes a very crucial and critical item. And within a certain time, we have to insert into the lunar orbit. Otherwise, it could go and crash on the moon. It can become a hyperboloid, it can become paraboloid, or it can be elliptical. So we want elliptical things to happen. And that will be 100 kilometers by some 100 kilometers is the perigee. And apogee could be, depending on at that time what it could be 1,000 kilometers or so. And then slowly it will reduce it to 100 kilometers by 100 kilometers. That sort of circular orbit will bring it. And then it will be detached from the propulsion module, and slowly it will be brought down. And then it will not be immediately vertical thing. It will drift slowly and find out which is an appropriate place. And overall things are taken care. It has got another capability, it can steer its landing. It can find out which is the appropriate, then can go. Unlike the Chandrayaan 2 lander. And of course, I must say that it's a complement of the Chandrayaan 2. The orbiter is working wonderfully well, where we had 8 payloads. Now, this time we are going to have a payload on the propulsion module also. And that's, in my opinion, as a space technology, is very important. It will monitor, it's called a spectropolarimetry habitable planet Earth. So it will monitor the reflected light from the Earth and find out its frequency, its spectral density, and by studying the extraterrestrial objects, if we get the similar spectral analysis or spectral parameters or spectral signatures, then we can find out that there can be life there. So it's a very important thing. Another, of course, rest of the Payloads are almost the same, which we have put on the Chandrayaan 2 rover and the lander, which we unfortunately did not place. But this time these are more advanced, and we will get better, what you call parameters, measurements of the moon surface and the moon's environment or atmosphere. We have got a little bit, very thin atmosphere. I mean, actually, it can be measured. It's up to 10 kilometers, and mostly it's the high energy particles.
Right.
So the payload, what called LIPS, laser induced breakdown spectroscope. When it breaks down, then there will be another spectroscope which measures the alpha particles, X-ray spectrometer. So from what's available on the moon surface, that will be measured. Plus also whatsoever is coming out of the laser-induced breakdown thing.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things. Major thing is that we are on the South Pole side. We will find out more water, and it will give us a confidence. The moon can be an outer post for the future, and
Right.
it will also provide inputs to the world, what could be done in the southern pole side. Another thing which I find is, this will give us a confidence in the future to land on the far side of the moon, which has got a different parameters. Only Chinese have landed there in 2019, and it will be quite important for us to know how the moon was, what was the origin of the moon, what was the origin of the universe, what was the origin of the earth. So many things will come out of it, that one.
Absolutely.
The last thing is, if we can put a telescope on the other side,
Right.
because then we'll not have optical noise, we'll not have RF noise, and definitely we can do much more scientific work.
Right.
So it's one step towards the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. So my one last question to you, Dr. Pal, what's next for ISRO?
Well, we have got a lot of things, if you are talking overall ISRO, L1 is this, we are going to put Aditya. We are going to monitor the solar atmosphere. Okay. Sun studies will be done, and, solar flares, the magnetic particles, high energy particles, they affect our total system. And we presently are depending everything on electronics,
Absolutely.
your internet, your grids, your satellites, etc. So any big solar flare can put us into doldrum. So we can predict it, and those studies will be very useful. So
Dr.
sun plays an
Surendra Pal,
important part in our life. Human life. Similarly, moon plays an important part in human life. And this Chandrayaan payload, as and when I'm in this, and I'm quite hopeful we will be successful. That also gives us an idea whether moon was a part of Earth, and what sort of moon quakes or bhukamp, or what we call like earthquake, moon quakes takes place.
Right.
What sort of activities take place? So
on that note, I'm going to have to wrap this discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your views and joining us here on Mirana.
Thank you.
Thank you.